We have quorum, so I think we can get started. First of all, I'd like to wish everybody a Happy New Year. We haven't been together since last year, so hopefully everybody had a good holiday season and look forward to a good year for everybody. So we do have Joey Coleman here. I'm just reminding everybody that members of the board and the public are reminded that our meetings are open to the public. So please be advised that individuals in the media may be audibly or visually recording this meeting, which is happening today. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have one added item. It's copied on yellow paper. A consent item, and it's a letter of resignation from board member Christine Chesbrook.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Seconder, all in favor?
Carried.
Are there any declarations of interest? None noted. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 29, 2015 meeting as presented? Ian, seconded. All in favor? Carried.
Carried.
As was indicated, we have a letter from Christine Chesbrook giving her resignation to the board. I need a motion to receive the letter and refer it to the selection committee. Seconder, all in favor?
Carried.
Carried. So Lori tells me that when a resignation is received, the selection committee will begin a process of appointing a new member. We did talk about this briefly. I mean, we're all recently appointed here, or reappointed. One suggestion I would have is maybe just to go back and look at the applications. I'm sure there was more. I don't know how that works, but it seems to be a simple process if we just go back and...
So my question through you, Chair, to Madam Clerk is, could you please explain the process?
Yes, so we have a selection committee. It's made up of 5 or 6 councillors who chose some of you who are in for interviews, and they review all the applications and conduct interviews for all the various subcommittees. We have on file all the applications for the people who applied, so when this goes through the council and is received, the selection committee will meet, and they'll decide maybe to go through the applications again to choose someone. They could choose to re-advertise, which given that, as Tom said, it was just a year ago, they probably won't, but it's at their discretion to do that. So it'll take us a couple of months to get through that, but that's the process.
Okay, thank you. So they don't need direction from this body or direction from council, it's at their discretion, is that correct?
That's right. It's just
Okay,
we needed to receive it and then just refer it on to selection.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
At the last meeting, we were advised that a number of the grant recipients hadn't spent all of their money. So really the purpose of this meeting is just to get an update from the number of groups that haven't actually spent all of their money. So with that said, I think we call upon Anna Bradford, from the Director of Tourism and Culture, to give us an update on Auchmar and the Nash Johnson House. Anna?
And I'd asked Lori if I could have an opportunity also on the presentations just to do a bit of a PowerPoint, which does include the items that you brought there, but never really had an opportunity to say thank you to the Future Fund for the incredible changes that they've made to some of my projects by having some money there. And I have just a very short presentation to show you the difference that has made. So I am saying thank you for ensuring that our past has a future, because they've all been heritage-based projects. Okay. So you funded some money for us for an artifact storage facility. The city had a lot of artifacts that were all over the place, basically. So we were able to consolidate them in one area. And this is a before picture. And then with the influx of your funds coming in, this is what it looks like now.
Shelves are not empty.
The shelves are not empty. This is during the time that they were installed. This is what the high density storage looks like complete. Here are some of the other storage units that we were able to purchase. So this is for textile storage, art storage, small artifacts, and furniture. So we were also able to, through the indulgence of council with the capital grant, on putting everything digitized. It's all on the net now, and there's great cataloging records. So this has made a huge difference. We can find things very quickly, and it's all consolidated in one area. It's in a very nondescript building. We've done it on purpose so that we can have a break in because, of course, these things are precious to our history in the city. And that's, we were able to quadruple our space that we had by using these new units in here. So I'm very proud of these projects and I'm very proud that you invested in them. The next one was the repair of the stone walls of Auchmar. Auchmar is up on the mountain in the corner of Fenelon and West 5th. It has been in various states of repair and disrepair, but it is under a conservation easement, which is with the province, and they can tell us that these, Auchmar is very important to the citizens of Hamilton, the people of Ontario, and the people of Canada, and that we are to keep it in good repair. So they have issued us a compliance order for the stone walls, and again, through the indulgence of this committee, I was able to fix some of it, not all of it, but it was enough to, that they knew that we were serious and that we took this national treasure basically very serious. This little shore that you see there has been there for about 30 years or so. Pretty bad shape. This is very unique. It's the only wall to stay left like this in Canada. This is the result of fixing the walls. So we still have a lot of work to do. The doors need to go back on, things like that, but what a difference it is. And it really shows you, probably when Buchanan built this incredible estate, how magnificent it was. So the project, to the point that we can do it, is complete. There's a little bit of money held back for this spring because what we're doing is mitigation of vegetation growing back up on the walls again and pulling all mortar out. That was one of the big problems that we had. The next one was the Cenotaph at Gore Park. So you can see that there's some failed mortar, and there's a lot of moss growth in between. The steps were uneven and broken. And around the Cenotaph, there were these brass pillars that had chain around them. They were quite magnificent at the time. Somebody had painted them gold with just commercial paint. The chains were missing, and actually some of the pillars were missing too. So the steps were reset and repaired. The bronze posts were restored and put back to their original bronze color. Missing ones were replicated. The Cenotaph was repointed and damaged stones were repaired. And we were back to a very lovely Cenotaph that we should feel very proud of. Another thing that you funded for me was the Sir Johnny MacDonald restoration. So it looks a little sad here. It looks pretty old. That's caused by corroded bronze. So what we did with this project was that we had the stone all clean, and after the bronze was clean, we treat it with, don't laugh, the cold wax. We get cold wax treatments about every 5 years. It keeps the bronze in really good shape. You've probably seen Queen Victoria. It looks pretty magnificent and has a quite a long. And Sir John is back in his glory. So again, something Hamiltonians are proud of. These are all icons. Heritage assets that people identify. Another one was the Gore Park Fountain. So the Gore Park Fountain was in disrepair. We had a lot of issues with corrosion on the paint. The paint failed, which was corroding the entire structure. So we were able to fix it. We brought it back to its former glory again. And I am proud to say that this won a National Award of Excellence. And it was from the Canadian Association of Heritage Professionals on the way that we did this. This fountain has been restored to the point where it will need very little maintenance, probably for about 50 years. So it's on an annual maintenance program, but that's where you're spending $25 instead of $25,000 to fix things up. The next one again was the Cenotaph. It was in Stoney Creek. So, there were problems with the stones. And one thing that was very sad was all of these names that were on the Cenotaph, the letters were all little pieces of bronze that had been put in originally, and a lot of them had gone missing or they faded, fallen, that type of thing. So we were able to do a whole new stone pavings up to the Cenotaph. And you can see that the names have all been replaced now and that the people can read them. And that again, it's on a 5-year program where the bronze has been fixed on the statue. He's on a 5-year wax also. But I wanted to put this picture in because that's Trish, our own. She's the one that led most of these projects She's our senior conservator, and she's absolutely amazing. And you can see, I think that's a great picture of her because it really shows you how much she really cares about these things. Battlefield Monument was another one that you funded for us. So this was at the top of the monument, and it had been closed for quite a while because we couldn't bring people up there because it was so unsafe. The tiles were all lifting, water was getting in, it was quite a mess. You can see this. And now it's all been fixed. And, sorry, the public is backed up, is the picture before. This is the Nash Jackson project. This is all in your report. Yeah, the Nash Jackson. This was a very long project where the house had been moved prior to amalgamation, sat for a while, and then we worked very hard. But it was the future fund coming in that gave us the money that tipped the project. So this is when we're working on the project. You can see how beautiful the work is that's been done, and it is complete now. The exhibits are all in place. That's a picture of Leona on her wedding day. Actually, you can see in the photograph the banister where her hand is resting. That's the banister that's right in front of her. The rooms have been put back together, and of course it's open to the public, and it's quite popular. Hamilton Museum of Steam and Technology. A lot of work here was done on the stone. You can see where the mortar had all failed and fallen out. So on the far side, that's the failure, and this is the fix. The windows have all been replaced. And the interior, this is the woodshed, has all been reconstructed. And quite beautiful. It's a National Historic Site, but you can see a lot of the work that was done there on the exterior stones and the stairs. And that's it. So that is my thank you very much for the work that you've done, because we are the funds that you gave us, because we would not have been able to finish a lot of these projects, certainly to the degree that we have, and that means we're not continuing to do catch-up and paying. They're on very good maintenance programs now, small amounts of money. So thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you for the presentation. So we have a little bit that we haven't expended yet, a little bit left over.
No, the only thing that's left over is the vegetation money that can't happen until the spring.
Right.
So we'll be doing a system so the vegetation doesn't grow on the stone again.
Thank you for that. Anyone got any questions, comments? My comment would be, I congratulate you for all of the things that were done.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of new members on this committee who weren't aware probably of all of these things. So I think it's something that I sit here and sort of smile and think was a job well done and money well spent. So anybody else got any comments? Great. Thank you very much. I need a motion to receive the report. Seconder, all in favor? Thank you. Well, you can stay.
Sure. Or I can go.
Oh, you can go.
I'd like to get ready because I have another meeting with
There
the
you go.
counselor after this one. So.
You better go and prepare.
Yes,
Oh.
okay. Thank you.
Actually, I'll be tied up for a bit. I'll be tied up for a bit.
Oh, it's for the tourism?
No, you were saying you had a meeting with a counselor, and I said, well,
Not you.
Okay, the second item we wanted an update on today was from Glenn Norton. He'll give us an update on the Hamilton Realty Capital Corporation. Glenn?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the General Issues Committee of Council has directed, and Councillor Partridge was helpful in forming that direction, to come back to the committee on March 2nd with a report outlining what are the options for Hamilton Realty Capital Corp. And I have no presentation, by the way. I know people are looking up the screen. I have no presentation. So the Hamilton Realty Capital Corp was actually formed 10 years ago in July on a 10-year agreement with the private sector partner. So the question is from council, what are our options and what is your recommendation to do with it? So I don't want to get ahead of that report to council, which is coming March 2nd, but I'll tell you sort of the general direction we're going and where we've been. Even though the agreement expires in 10 years, that doesn't mean that it has to end. What it means is either party can now withdraw from it with 30 days notice to the other. So my analysis and recommendation to council will very much depend on what the private sector partner does with that asset between now and then, or what he indicates that he will do with it. In all likelihood, if there isn't some movement towards the project being advanced, which is the Cannon Indian Mills, my recommendation will likely be that we give notice we would like to end the agreement. Could we have our loan back, please, or sell the asset and give it our loan back? So, like I say, if you don't mind, I'll give you a more complete report after I've submitted it to council. I think in fairness to Councillor Partridge and her colleagues, it should probably come to them first. But at this point in time, I would suggest that it's unlikely we will be asking for any of the unexpended monies to be expended on our project. If I could leave it that general?
Maybe inappropriate. So you've had some conversations with these people?
Yes. Yes, we're deep in conversations now, and he is weighing off sort of from his perspective of what he thought he would do and what he thought he would get out of it. Certainly the option of selling the mills and getting it into the hands of someone who does have a more finite plan for it is on the table. And there are some other interested parties, but the one that I alluded to the last time I was here in terms of an affordable housing project is not going ahead. That was not accepted by the Affordable Housing Agency that had been in receipt of the proposal. So the question is there another use that he can come up with, another tenant or a series of tenants, or is it better to put this asset into the hands of somebody else? And stay tuned, Councillor Partridge, and on March 2nd I hope to have that answer for you.
I just wanted to, any other projects in the works at the moment?
There are none. There is one we've been asked to look at by the mayor, but it's not anything that we've even had a first meeting on yet. So, and it's way up in the air in terms of its nearness to being taken on.
So a couple of questions for you, Glenn, and appreciating that this report will be coming to council on March 2nd, and there's only so much information that you're comfortable sharing. How much money is left over that has not been tapped into? And I'm just thinking about some of the newer members here who may not be familiar.
It's 1.6.
1.6 million.
So 1.6 million is still in reserves. And so through you, Chair, to Charlie, I guess Charlie would be the best one to comment on this then, with those reserve monies, will they be added into the pot of the next round of funding that is going to start in March 15th until May, or how will that be dealt with?
Through the chair, that's correct. The monies would just remain in the Fund B, and would be available to be allocated as the board determines.
Okay, and we can do that at our March meeting after it's been presented to council?
Hold on. Remember, at March, you'll get my recommendation. The 10-year agreement does not expire till July.
Right.
So technically, that private sector partner does have the right, if he moves forward with something, to draw those funds between now and July. So I wouldn't think that in your March meeting you'd be able to make a determination for sure that you have those funds to reallocate.
All right, thank you, but through you, Chair, I thought I heard you say, though, that you wouldn't be coming back to the fund to take the balance of the money that was originally dedicated. That's what I'm talking
I'm
about.
suggesting to you that it's highly unlikely that we will be. I cannot state that categorically. Not necessarily my call. If the private sector partner proceeds and all of a sudden decides I'm going to start developing that building up until the end of July, we don't have any choice but to respond under the same formula that we currently use. We match $1 of ours with $1 of his.
All right, and that's part of the agreement, it's a 10-year agreement.
Yes.
It's in effect until July, as you
Correct.
stated, so just a clarification on that.
That is absolutely correct,
All
Councillor.
right, thank you very much.
So just to make it more clear, so it was a 10-year commitment to this Hamilton Realty Capital Corporation
Correct.
from this fund.
Correct.
At the end of 10 years, that commitment ends if it hasn't been taken up.
Not exactly. The agreement is now voidable. Either party can give the other 30 days notice.
Assuming nothing happens between now and July.
That's likely what would happen. We could say, you know what, let's extend it. That could happen for good and valid reasons. You may want to extend the agreement. In all likelihood, you won't, but that is an option. I just don't want to rule out options early.
No, again, I'm trying to clarify. It was our funding of the Hamilton Realty Capital Corporation was for 10 years.
How you funded it is more a question for our friend in Treasury here.
That's why I'm asking both.
Yeah, so Charlie perhaps
If you
does.
remember, if you don't remember, it's okay too. But I think part of what we're doing here today is reviewing projects that we have funded or agreed to fund that haven't spent the money. So the biggest one we have actually is this one. So we came up with a concept was accepted, concept was passed, approved, and it was, I believe, my recollection is, it could be wrong, but it was for 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, if the money, that was the drop dead date for whatever, subject to whatever agreements were entered into in the meantime. So since we don't have any other project on the go at the moment, and unlikely to have one between now and July, nothing's impossible, unlikely, then if this thing isn't done or expended, I would think by July, we should be in a position to return, subject to checking in the Charlie. Does that sound right, Joe?
Yeah, I don't recall what the original terms were when the funds were approved, whether there was a 10-year limit or not myself, so.
I'm pretty sure it was a limit on, but anyway, we can
Yeah.
check that for a March meeting.
Yeah, we can get paper.
Or maybe, yeah. Anybody else got any comments, questions?
Councilor Wright.
So, when we deal with funding with the city, and funds aren't used, are going to be used, we call it WIPs. So the money becomes available, and we can set up a committee, release those funds quicker and sooner, so we can allocate it to other projects. Doesn't appear, from what I'm hearing now, that we're not, I mean, for example, in this case, you said 10-year commitment. That means there's 6 months left of that 10-year commitment. I would think, at this point, that they would have to serve notice, or certainly, I mean, you don't plan something in the last month. So I'm trying to understand whether we can verify, so that we, in regards to opening up those dollars sooner than later, verify, because there's only 6 months from the Realty Corp, if they have anything they foresee or need within the next 6 months. If they don't, then we can actually release, or by the March meeting, we can release those dollars sooner than later. So I just want to, if there's dollars being not used and just sitting there, and there's other uses for it, I want to take advantage.
Right, well, I think correct me if I'm wrong again, but we're going to ask for applications for funding. Start March is the application date. They'll be reviewed in May, and that takes a while to review them. So by the time that process has expired, and we don't announce that we have a categorical amount of money to spend either. So I think the timelines would work, Terry. I think that would be
Perfect.
should fit together.
No, that's fine, I just, like I said, well,
It's a good point.
releasing money as soon as practical.
But just reminding everybody, even though last year we had a certain amount of money, we actually didn't allocate the money that we had available to allocate, even though we had money. We saved it for this year. Anybody else got any comments, questions? Need a motion to receive the report? Carrie, seconder, all in favor? Carrie. Thank you. Now calling Robin Ellis with Facilities Management and Capital Programs to give us an update on the Waterdown Memorial Hall.
So thanks to the Hamilton Future Fund and Councillor Partridge for the invite for facilities to give you an update here today. We would like to give you an update on the Waterdown Memorial Hall project. And there has been significant progress on this project in construction. And a large part of this was due to the favorable weather that we had before the new year, even though that's a distant memory now. The basement walls of the addition were poured. The plumbing for the basement was all roughed in, and the backfill has started. So all of that is great news. I would like to advise, however, that there have been several unforeseen site conditions. So site services, site survey, and electrical safety authority code issues that have led to delays on site during construction. And so due to those circumstances and understanding that an occupancy date previously on the contractor's schedule showed late February, we have been informed by the general contractor, which is Ross Clare, to expect turnover of the hall in spring 2016. So that's the latest information we have for you on schedule. So after discussion with Ross Clare, we have asked them to review and revise the proposed construction schedule and provide an update at our next construction meeting. And as part of the update, they've been asked to show how they can fast-track certain tasks and work in parallel to help expedite the schedule. So one of the examples of that would be enclosing the addition so that they can work on the interior and the exterior at the same time. Another example is revisiting the critical path of the project to make sure that they are not wasting any time there. Another item is we're keeping an eye on them and getting updates from them weekly just to make sure nothing lapses. And getting as far in advance as possible all of the shop drawings. So a lot of approvals for shop drawings and submittals are all being done now, well in advance of when they're required, just to make sure that there aren't any holdups later on in the project. So that's a little bit of an update on what we're trying to do to expedite the schedule. What you can expect to see over the next couple of weeks would be the continuance of electrical and mechanical rough-ins within the existing hall and also in the addition. Form and pouring of the ground floor in the addition, which is already underway. Backfill at the addition of the basement walls. Pouring of the ground floor walls, and that should be done at some point next week. Continue to submit shop drawings, and that's something I mentioned that we're working on. So we can provide further updates as we go along, and both Janet Warner, Senior Project Manager, and myself are here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Judy?
Yes, and thank you very much, Robin, for the update. I appreciate it. I have a number of local retired supervisors who visit the site daily and keep me posted on how things are going. And the good news is it looks like we're going to probably have occupancy late April, by May for sure. And thank you, Janet, for also being on site and for looking after this project. I have absolutely no concerns, even though we have had some delays. But you know, certainly, and appreciate all the funding that was provided by my council, by my colleagues around the table here. So appreciate the update. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, they made up quite a bit of time here, I think.
Oh,
Last-
yes,
yeah.
with the weather, yes.
And the anticipated use date is what?
So we were just, Janet and I were just chatting about that. The councillor is right on in terms of the date of occupancy. Of course, it will take the program staff some time to get in there, get everything, set up the way they want it. So we're talking about maybe late May in terms of talking grand opening and things like that. So we'll definitely keep the councillor posted. We'll keep the future fund posted so that you have more information closer to the date.
And I'm not familiar with what it's used for day to day, or what the proposed use is, or what the historical use is. So does that interfere with the scheduling?
So if I can answer that, the Village Theatre, which the Waterdown Village Theatre is well known, actually throughout Southern Ontario, it's quite a bit of visitors from all over that come to their production. They have been moved out to St. James Church to carry on with their productions. They will be moving back in. Their production season starts, theatre starts in September. So in terms of that, we're fine. The local Lions Club as well uses the banquet hall downstairs, and it is typically booked almost solid throughout the year, and we're already getting lots of calls from folks wanting to get in there and to book it for weddings and other meetings. The Horticultural Society is interested in it. So it is a well-used building, and the building itself is a war memorial. There are only 7 of them across Canada, and we have 2 of them in Flamborough, one in Carlisle, and this one, the Waterdown Memorial Hall. So it's quite a significant treasure for the city of Hamilton.
Any questions, comments? We need a motion to receive Robin's report. Seconder, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. So we now have an update about the Hamilton Public Library's Love Your City project. So we have Laura Kasich and Melanie Sutter here. The floor is yours.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to provide an update for you on the Love Your City, Share Your Stories storytelling project. It has been an absolute wonderful project to be working on, so thank you so much for the funds to allow us to go forward with this. And in terms of a legacy project for Hamilton, I think we've hit it on the head, the nail on the head. So we have been very, very busy going through archives. As you know, the Hamilton Public Library has a set of archives, as does McMaster University. So McMaster University Library, as well as the City of Hamilton's Culture Department, are partners on this particular project. So really leveraging and sharing what we have in the archives. Our commitment to the project from the Hamilton Public Library is a database. It's called A2M. So staff in our archives are busy digitizing materials, putting them into this database that will be on our website. It will be accessible. It will be far easier for Hamiltonians to access the materials that we do have in our archives. So that was one of the promises from the grant. But as well as that, with the Culture Department and McMaster University Library, and we meet regularly as a steering committee, we decided that we needed some parameters on the project. And we really identified 4 icons out of the icons that City Culture had already come up with by consulting with the community. So we focused our project on 4 icons so that we would have a framework in place that would support storytelling and collecting of stories for many, many years to come. So we're really looking at the sustainability of the project beyond the funding from this grant. So we chose libraries, music, Tim Hortons, and Gore. So based on that, we've had folks working away, but we also realized that sometimes archives can be perceived as a little bit dry. So we've attached multimedia to the work that we're doing so that we can appeal to all age levels. There's an opportunity for people to submit stories that are written, and we'll have those available on a microsite that we're putting together. We have beacons. If you're familiar with iBeacons, they're little rectangular boxes about this big. When you download an app, that beacon will send information to your personal device. Now, currently Gore Park does not have Wi-Fi, so we're bringing the Gore Park experience inside. So these beacons will be at our central library. They'll also be at Mills Library at McMaster University. As I mentioned, McMaster University is one of our partners on the project. And Dr. Brian Detwar, who has been working with us, he's actually from the DeGroote School of Business, but did a year's researcher in residence program with the library, has a SHIRT grant. And if you're familiar with grants available to academic institutions, they're sometimes very difficult to come by, but for this particular community grant, he did get some money, so he's actually studying the impact of storytelling on communities. He actually has another student that is going to be evaluating the iBeacons that we'll have both at McMaster University and at the Central Library. So some good pieces coming out of that. And really sharing the project worldwide. So Brian has already been to Europe, to conferences talking about our project. So some good mileage there outside of Hamilton. So we have the beacon component. We have the microsite. If you've been to Central Library in the last little while, you'll see on our first floor, across from the libraries, we have a very, very large interactive video wall. So all of the technology is there, it's in place, and it's working. We have some stories there already. But the idea is that we'll have some curated stories, in a sense, around those 4 icons. But then we'll also have video from community members. So it could be video, it could be a podcast. As I say, it could be a written piece available through our microsite. But really looking at different forms of media to appeal to all ages so that they can share in, essentially, the oral histories of our city. And what's really fabulous about this project is because we are following archival standards, which are similar to an ISO standard of sorts, the material that is being collected, that's being videoed, that's being podcasted, will in fact become part of our archives of the city of Hamilton. So 50 years from now, somebody might look at a video of Tom Wilson playing at Hamilton Public Library, and all of the details that they'll need from an archival perspective will be there as well. So in terms of the funds, we provided with $150,000 for the project. We have approximately $30,000 left of that amount of money, and we're really now on a push for people to share their stories. So we do need some money still for videography and editing and to get all of those pieces up and available to the general public. As well as that, met with city staff around Sesquicentennial and some potential projects around Sesquicentennial and storytelling. I'm also going to be meeting with the city's new cultural roundtable in the coming weeks to encourage them to help us to recruit people to share their stories. So what we're hoping as time goes by is that there will be this set of stories, there will be this framework that will continue to collect stories, but as well as that, other organizations in the city who have already done storytelling work will add their stories to our overarching umbrella. The library, as you know, we collect the stories, we collect the books, so it makes sense that we have those things as part of our archives for Hamiltonians to share for years to come. So thank you again. We are planning a bit of a celebration early in the fall, once we've made sure all the kinks are worked out, so we'll be sure to get invitations to all of you. So we hope that you'll join us.
Thank you very much. Just curious, so you picked these 4 areas, whatever.
Yes.
3 of them, one of them is to me has some commercial context. And I would just suggest that if you're looking for money and you're doing part of this on Tim Hortons, I don't know what what that means, but I.
Oh, it's
yeah.
basically to share the history of Tim Hortons in
Yeah.
the city, not from a commercial,
No, but from the organization, from Tim
oh,
Hortons'
to
point
ask
of
them
view.
for
Yeah.
money. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And help and whatever, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
no.
Thank you.
Anybody questions, comments? I think it's very interesting, it's sort of, look forward to.
It's been great, and I have to tell you that people are really excited to be part of the project. So even, you know, musicians in the city, said, yeah, I'll tell you a story, and I'll have some of our staff come back and say, I only wanted a 2-minute clip, but I have 2 hours worth of footage. So we've decided that we're going to keep those pieces as well and make them available, because once people get sharing their stories, they have lots to say. So it's been great.
So we use the adage that the Hamilton Public Library changes lives, one story at a time. And we think that the Love Your City, Share Your Stories is just going to really illustrate that in a new way and really make that come home for people.
How do you sort of get people to respond to you? How does that work?
Through a number of events. So from another grant, we have older adult programming happening. So a lot of folks are doing memoir writing, they're doing writing workshops. So we've suggested these are pieces that can be submitted for the microsite. At Central Library this Sunday, in fact, we're starting a Sunday concert series. So we're going to have an opportunity for folks to come in and share their stories around music. So we're really looking to the community through some of the programming that we're doing as a bit of an add-on. Come and share your stories with us.
And at the Junos, we had a little sound booth when we had Blame It on Hamilton. We had a little sound booth set up, and we invited people between sets and before to share why were they coming here, what were some of their great music memories from Hamilton, and really made some connections that way as well.
Great. Any questions, comments? Need a motion to receive the report? Second, or all in favor?
Carrie?
Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Any other items of new business? This is a very short meeting. All we were looking for is an update on some of these projects. So any other comments, questions? Just reminding everybody, I think the timeline is March. We're going to send out the applications. We expect to have them back on